If you're really struggling to lift into back bend or are struggling with compression or pain around the lower back, these couple of preps can really help us to find a bit of space through the front of the body. Where we can get a little bit stuck is the front of the thighs and the front of the hips as we take that lift, and also the front of the chest here, looking for a little bit of mobility in the spine. Up behind the ribs there, that can be pretty challenging as well. So got some preps that we can do together. So first up, we're going to do some quad and hip flexor stretches just to see if we can find some space there. So I'm going to come on to the knees, and the knees and the feet are about hip width apart. So I just want you to check that the feet haven't turned in with the heels rolled out. We want the feet about hip width apart as well. So we're not sitting between the heels, we're sitting on the heels. So already you might be feeling a bit of a stretch in the quads there, maybe down towards the knee end. To get more stretch into the top end of the muscles as well and into the hips, we're going to lean back. So the first stage is just to take the hands back about a hand's length behind the hips, and the fingertips are pointing forward. And we're going to lift the bum up, tuck the tailbone under, and sit back down. Now the elbows are soft and the chest is lifting. And then as you breathe in, I want you to take the tailbone forward between the knees and lift the hips. So lifting the hips up as high as you can, but keep the tailbone reaching forward between the knees. And I want you to try and increase the space behind the knees here. Just being careful that the knees don't go wide, so we're gently drawing them in towards each other. And I'm going to suggest that when you feel the intensity of this stretch, that you then take 8 good breaths here, 8 to 10 good breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and exhale, coming down and taking pose of a child there. Just a few good breaths to release any tension that you might have created. So the next stage, we're going to take that a little bit further. We're going to go back on to the elbows. So those actions again, what tends to happen is as we go back, if we're tight in the front of the hips and the front of the thighs, the knees tend to want to lift up and out. So we're going to focus on drawing them in and down. So it's in and down with the knees. We're looking to try and create space between the knees here. And what can help is really pressing down into the tops of the feet and into the shins there. So if that one felt okay for you, we're going to take it to the next stage. We're going to go back onto the elbows. So you can feel that even just going back on the elbows, already you need a little bit more length and space to get there. And we're going to tuck the tailbone under and sit back down. I'm going to exhale there and inhale again, tailbone forward as the hips lift. Drawing those knees in and down, keeping them on the mat, and looking to see if we can create space behind the knees there. Now obviously the intensity with this one comes much sooner. But again, we're going to take 8 to 10 good breaths once we find that intensity. So I've probably been talking through my intensity till about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. Now carefully coming up and forward and taking pose of a child.
And release the breath. Looking for any tension you may have inadvertently created. And coming up to sitting. So we're going to take that a stage further now. Keeping the knees about hip width apart and the feet about hip width apart. I want you to tuck the toes under and sit back on the heels. So this may already be challenging for you. And if you find that it's too much, then back off and do the last one again. Otherwise, we're going to reach back, get the hands on the floor, tuck the tailbone under, lift the hips, and then sit back down. And we're just setting up. So again, we want to maintain those knees drawing in and down towards the floor. We want to avoid the knees lifting up and out. Inhale, draw the tailbone towards the knees and lift the hips, looking to make space behind the knees. Take the head back if you can. And again, we're looking for those 8 lovely breaths once we find the intensity of this stretch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Exhale, release. Coming back up. Untuck those toes. Taking pose of a child. Maybe 5 breaths here in pose of a child. Don't take too long. Otherwise I find you just don't want to carry on and do the next one. So if you're still with me, we're going to take one final version. We're going to be up on the toes and we're going to go back on to the elbows. So clearly requiring quite a bit of space through the front of the body, even before we lift the hips. And there's not much movement on the hips. So we're going to tuck the toes under, reaching back, and we're going to try and get the elbows onto the floor. So again, avoiding the lifting knees, take them back to the floor, so in and down. Getting the elbows on the floor. Now inhale and lift. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oops, 1 too many. Exhale. And coming up. Pose of a child. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Coming up. Great, so 4 rounds there. Working to the one wherever you can. So it may be that you just do 1 and 2 and then repeat the second one twice. Maybe you can get to the third one and you have to repeat the third one twice. Or maybe you can do all 4 videos, or maybe just the first one. Doing it 4 times, really, really helpful if you're struggling and getting stuck in your back bends. So now I'm going to look at a lovely passive stretch this time, just to try and give us a little bit of space and movement through the upper back. So if you've got one of these hard bricks, that's better, or a pile of 2 or 3 hardback books. And which way round you have it is going to depend on how much movement you have in the back already. So I'm going to suggest that you start off with this block flat and just pop a blanket over it. Corners are hard and gnarly. Okay, so we're going to lay back over the brick. Now, if you have one of these flat bricks, have that. Otherwise, a hardback book is a good weight. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay back over the brick and we're going to take our block or our book up and overhead. Now, I don't want you to touch the floor. We're just going to let gravity do the work here. And we're going to breathe here now. I usually stay here for maybe about 15 to 20 breaths. If you find that that's a bit too comfortable, maybe your head's jammed on the floor, you can take the brick up onto its side. Just give yourself a little bit more height. We're going to go over. Now we just want it sitting just at that space. You can feel the right spot because you just get this lovely lifting and opening in front of the chest. And we're going to take the block up and overhead. And like I say, letting gravity do some of the work. Don't let the block flop to the floor. Just give it a little bit of resistance there. And breathe. So like I say, I'm here generally about 15 or 20 breaths. If there's any pain at all, you're going to come out. This should actually feel quite pleasant. And when you've done your 20 breaths, I'll probably take you a little bit longer than I've been here. We're just going to very slowly take that up and over. And then what I want you to do is, we need to be really careful coming out of here, especially if the head's been hanging. So what to do is take the hands behind the head, clasp them, and use the arms to lift the head. Then we're going to get the hands behind us and come all the way up to sitting. Now I quite like to take a supported forward bend after that. So whatever it is that I've been carrying, I'm just going to get it under my tummy and lean over the top of it. If you find that that doesn't support you, get yourself some extra height until it does, until you can lean over the top of it. So a supported forward bend. And 10 long, fine breaths here. Just letting the body soften, let the head hang. Softening the body, releasing any tension that you might have created there. And after your 10 long, lovely breaths, just slowly coming up to sitting. So a bit of work, certainly not an overnight cure, but what I hope is that every time you do these, you feel a little bit of a difference. You feel a little bit more space and you feel a little bit more ease in your back bend. I suggest you do these every day before you do your back bending in your practice. So well done. Thank you very much. I hope you found this helpful.